The stars around Earth burned with the light of 1,000 alien ships. Admiral Zixathera stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the blue planet through the massive viewing screen. Her crystalline body reflected the light from the screens around her. She had lived for 800 years, and in all that time she had never seen anything like humanity. The other council members stood behind her. General Karath of the Warrior Krex people flexed his forearms nervously. Ambassador Yellen from the ancient hegemony kept checking her data tablets. They were all afraid, though none would admit it. How did they advance so quickly? Yellen asked for the 10th time that day. Her voice carried the weight of someone who had studied galactic history for centuries. Zixathera turned her head, making a sound like wind chimes in the breeze. 300 Earth years ago they had just learned to fly. Now they have ships that can travel between stars. What took our people thousands of years, they did in decades. The truth was more frightening than any of them wanted to say out loud. Every species in the galaxy had followed the same path. First came basic tools, then agriculture, then cities, then spaceflight. It always took the same amount of time, give or take a few centuries. The Veltar had taken 4,000 years to reach the stars. The Krex had taken 5,000. Even the brilliant hegemony had needed 3,000 years. Humanity had done it in 300. General Korath slammed one of his fists on the metal railing. They are dangerous. Every simulation shows the same result. In another 100 years, they will have technology that surpasses ours. In 200 years, they could challenge the entire council. That is why we are here, Zixathera said. She turned back to the screen showing Earth. To end this threat before it begins, the Galactic Defense Council had been formed after the last Great War 2,000 years ago. 12 species had agreed to work together to keep peace in the galaxy. They shared technology, resources, and knowledge. Most importantly, they made sure no single species became too powerful. Now humanity threatened to upset that balance. Send the message, Zixathera ordered. A junior officer activated the communication array. The message would reach Earth in moments, carried by quantum transmitters that could cross space instantly. It was simple and direct, as all ultimatums should be. The humans had one Earth day to respond. They must agree to limit their technology to approved levels. They must surrender all military ships. They must accept permanent monitoring of their planet. If they refused, the Council fleet would act. Zixathera expected them to surrender immediately. What choice did they have? One planet against 1,000 ships from 12 different species. The Council fleet carried enough firepower to turn Earth's surface into glass. Hours passed. The alien crews waited, watching their instruments for any sign of human military activity. They detected some old fusion-powered ships moving between Earth and its moon. Nothing that could threaten even a single Council vessel. Then something strange happened. Lieutenant Voss, a young hegemony officer, looked up from her console with confusion. Admiral, I am detecting unusual energy readings from the outer system. Zixathera moved to stand behind the officer's station. The display showed a three-dimensional map of Earth's solar system. Beyond the 8th planet, something was glowing on the sensors. What kind of energy? She asked. I am not sure, Admiral. The readings are unlike anything in our databases. The energy signature is massive, but it appears to be contained somehow. General Korath joined them at the console. His warrior instincts had kept his people alive for millions of years, and right now those instincts were screaming danger. Could it be a weapon? Impossible, Ambassador Yellen said, but her voice lacked conviction. Our intelligence reports show that humanity's most advanced ships use simple chemical rockets for deep space travel. They barely have fusion power. The energy signature grew stronger. Whatever was out there was moving toward the inner system. Get me a detailed scan, Zixathera ordered. I want to know what we're looking at. The ship's most powerful sensors turned toward the mysterious signal. For several minutes, the computers worked to analyze the data. When the results appeared on screen, nobody spoke for a long time. Lieutenant Voss finally broke the silence. Admiral, according to these readings, there is something very large approaching from beyond the 9th planet. The energy output suggests a power source equivalent to a small star. That cannot be correct, Yellen said. Run the scan again. They ran it 3 more times. Each scan showed the same impossible result. Could it be some kind of natural phenomenon? Korath asked. His voice had lost its usual aggressive tone. No, Zixathera said quietly. Natural phenomena do not move in straight lines toward planetary systems. More hours passed. The energy signature continued to approach. Other ships in the Council fleet began reporting the same readings. Panic started to spread through the alien crews as they realized they were detecting something beyond their understanding. Admiral Zixathera had commanded fleets for 300 years. She had fought in border wars and explored unknown regions of space. She had seen weapons that could crack planets and engines that could bend space itself, but she had never seen energy readings like this. "How long until it reaches the inner system?" she asked. "At current speed, approximately 6 hours," Lieutenant Voss replied. 6 hours to understand what humanity had been hiding in the outer darkness of their system. Zixathera opened a communication channel to the entire Council fleet. "All ships maintain battle readiness. Continue monitoring the approaching signature. Do not take any aggressive action without direct orders." She closed the channel and turned to her senior staff. "What do we know about human deep space capabilities?" Ambassador Yellen consulted her files. "Our intelligence indicates they have sent a few small probes beyond their 9th planet. No permanent installations, no major industrial operations, certainly nothing that could support the kind of energy output we are detecting." "Then our intelligence is wrong," Korath said flatly, as if summoned by his words. A communication arrived from Earth. The human response to their ultimatum. The message was short. It came from someone calling himself Director Chen of Earth Defense Command. Most of the Council had never heard of this organization. "Council fleet," the human said, "your ultimatum has been received and rejected. Earth will not surrender its sovereignty to any external authority. We suggest you reconsider your position while you still can." General Korath laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "While we still can? They think their little planet can threaten 1,000 ships?" But Zixathera was not laughing. Something in the human's voice bothered her. It was not the voice of someone facing overwhelming odds. It was the voice of someone who knew something the Council did not. "Admiral," Lieutenant Voss called out, her voice tight with fear. "The energy signature has increased speed. It will be here in 2 hours, Zixes." Thara looked at the tactical display showing her beautiful fleet arranged in perfect formation around Earth. 1,000 ships, representing the combined might of 12 species. Until today, she had thought it was enough to face any threat in the galaxy. Now she was beginning to wonder what humanity had been doing in the dark spaces beyond their world, and why they sounded so confident when they should have been terrified. The countdown continued. 2 hours until they found out what secrets humanity had been keeping in the cold void between planets. The space around Pluto rippled like water disturbed by a dropped stone. Admiral Zixathera watched her instruments go completely insane as something impossible began to appear on her screens. "Report," she commanded. But Lieutenant Voss could only stare at her console in shock. "Admiral, I am reading a massive object declaking. Length, 3,000 meters. Width, 800 meters. The hull composition is... This cannot be right. Tell me what you see, Lieutenant." "The readings suggest the hull is made of compressed neutronium, Admiral. That should be impossible to work with. The gravitational forces alone would crush any known construction equipment." General Korath moved closer to the main screen. What he saw there made his warrior blood run cold. The ship that had appeared was larger than anything in the Council fleet. It was dark gray, almost black, with lines that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Strange symbols glowed along its hull in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "What kind of humans build ships like that?" he whispered. The alien fleet's most powerful sensors turned toward the massive vessel. The results that came back challenged everything they thought they knew about human technology. Ambassador Yellen read from her data tablet with a shaking voice. "Energy output equivalent to our largest battleships. No, wait, more than that. The power core is reading as... How is this possible? It appears to be channeling the power of a contained star." "A what?" Zixathera demanded. "The energy signature matches stellar fusion but controlled and focused. Somehow they have captured the power of a sun and put it inside that ship. The massive human vessel hung in space like a dark omen. It made no aggressive moves, launched no weapons, sent no threats. It simply existed, and its very existence rewrote everything the Council thought they knew about their galaxy." "Incoming transmission," the communications officer announced. "From the human ship." "Put it on screen." The face that appeared was human, but not like the humans in Council intelligence files. This woman looked older, with gray streaks in her dark hair and scars on her face that spoke of battles fought in places far from Earth. Her eyes held the weight of someone who had seen things that changed her forever. I am Captain Sarah, Chen of the Earth vessel Indomitable Will, she said. Her voice was calm, professional, and completely unafraid. You have threatened our world. You have demanded our surrender. I am here to explain why that was a mistake. Zixthera stepped forward. I am Admiral Zixthera of the Galactic Defense Council. Your ship is impressive, Captain, but you face 1,000 vessels. Surrender now and we will show mercy. Captain Chen smiled, and there was no humor in it. Admiral, you have no idea what you are dealing with. Let me help you understand. The human touched something on her command chair. Instantly, every sensor in the Council fleet began screaming warnings. New energy signatures appeared throughout the solar system. Not one, not two. 12 more massive objects were decloaking. Impossible, General Korath breathed. Captain Chen's image remained steady on the screen. For 200 years, humanity has been preparing for this day. We knew that eventually our rapid advancement would draw attention. We knew that other species would see us as a threat. So we prepared. The Council fleet was now surrounded. 13 human dreadnoughts, each one larger and more powerful than anything the aliens had ever built. The ships moved with impossible grace, their engines bending space around them in ways that violated known physics. Your intelligence was correct about one thing, Chen continued. Humanity did advance quickly. But you made one critical error. You assumed we were working alone. Zixthera felt something cold settle in her chest. What do you mean? Admiral, how much do your people know about the predecessors? The question hit the Council leadership like a physical blow. Every species in the galaxy had legends about the predecessors, an ancient race that had ruled the stars millions of years ago before mysteriously vanishing. Most considered them myths. The predecessors are legends, Ambassador Yellen said, but her voice lacked conviction. No, Captain Chen replied. They were real, and they left something behind. The main screen changed to show a star map of the galaxy. Thousands of points of light appeared, scattered across the spiral arms. Each one pulsed with the same strange energy that powered the human ships. Defense platforms, Chen explained, hidden throughout the galaxy, waiting, watching, protecting. Protecting from what? Zixthera asked, though she was not sure she wanted to know the answer. From threats that your civilizations are not ready to understand. The predecessors did not vanish, Admiral. They evolved beyond physical existence to fight something worse than any empire or war machine. But before they left, they made sure someone would guard what they had built. The implications crashed over the Council representatives like a wave. Everything they thought they knew about galactic history was wrong. The humans on Earth are not the real threat, Chen continued. We are the Guardians, the Watchers, the ones who keep the ancient defenses active while you grow and learn and become something more than you are today. General Korath found his voice first. You are saying that humans are somehow connected to a legendary race that disappeared millions of years ago? Not connected, Chen corrected. Chosen, selected, enhanced. The predecessors needed someone to maintain their systems until they could return or until you were ready to take over the watch. Captain Chen stood up from her command chair. Behind her, the bridge of the Indomitable Will stretched away in impossible dimensions. Crew members moved between stations that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Your ultimatum demanded that we limit our technology and surrender our weapons, she said. But our technology is not ours to surrender. It belongs to the galaxy, to all of us. And our weapons are not aimed at you. Then what are they aimed at? Zixthera asked. The star map changed again. This time it showed something moving in the dark space between galaxies. Something vast and hungry and completely alien. At what comes from the void, Chen replied. At what destroyed the predecessors' physical forms. At what will return someday to test whether this galaxy has grown strong enough to defend itself. The Council fleet hung in space around 13 impossible ships built by a species they had underestimated completely. Everything they thought they knew about humanity, about their place in the galaxy, about the very nature of reality itself, had just been turned upside down. So what happens now? Admiral Zixthera asked. Captain Chen looked directly at her through the screen. Now you have a choice, Admiral. You can attack us and learn why predecessor technology has never been defeated, or you can listen while I explain what is really coming for all of us. Admiral Zixthera stared at the human captain for a long moment. Around them, the bridge of her flagship had gone completely silent. Every officer, every crew member was watching the screens that showed 13 impossible ships surrounding their entire fleet. "You claim to be Guardians," Zixthera said finally. "Prove it." Captain Chen nodded as if she had expected this response. "Very well. But first I need you to understand something about your own history." The star map appeared again on every screen in the Council fleet. This time it showed the galaxy as it was millions of years ago, when the first intelligent species were just beginning to build cities. "The predecessors were not the first intelligent race in this galaxy," Chen began. "They were the survivors of the first invasion. Something came from the dark between galaxies and consumed every thinking species it could find. The predecessors were the only ones who learned to fight back." Ambassador Yellen leaned forward. "Our oldest records make no mention of any invasion. Because the predecessors made sure your species developed in areas they had cleared and protected," Chen replied. "Every world where intelligent life has grown, every system where civilization has flourished was carefully chosen and defended. The map changed to show lines of energy connecting distant stars. The pattern was beautiful and complex, like a vast web spanning the entire galaxy. The defense network," Captain Chen explained. "Millions of platforms hidden in dark matter clouds, asteroid fields, and the spaces between systems. All of them connected, all of them watching for signs of the return." General Korath crossed his forearms. "If such a network exists, why have our sensors never detected it?" "Because you were not supposed to," a new voice said. Another human appeared on the screen next to Captain Chen. This one was older, with completely white hair and eyes that seemed to hold the weight of centuries. "I am Director Morrison of the Predecessor Archaeological Division," the newcomer said. "Captain Chen commands our military forces. I study what the predecessors left behind." Zixthera felt a chill run through her crystalline body. "How many humans know about this?" "All of them," Morrison replied simply. "Every human child learns the truth when they turn 18. We have no choice. The burden is too great for secrets." "What burden?" Ambassador Yellen asked. Director Morrison touched something off-screen. The star map zoomed out, showing not just their galaxy but the surrounding space. In the darkness between galaxies, something moved. Something vast and patient and absolutely alien. "The Devourers," Morrison said quietly. "That is what the predecessors called them. They exist in the void between galaxies, feeding on the life force of intelligent beings. They consumed the Andromeda Galaxy 2 million years ago. They destroyed the Magellanic Clouds 500,000 years ago, and they are coming here." The thing moving in the dark was impossible to understand. It was not a ship or a fleet or anything that made sense to minds used to physical reality. It was hunger given form, destruction with purpose, death that thought and planned and remembered. "How long?" Zixthera asked. "The predecessors' calculations suggest another 1,000 years before they arrive in force," Captain Chen said. "Maybe 2,000. The timeline is uncertain because they do not move through space the way we understand it. And until then we maintain the defenses. We watch the barriers between dimensions. We keep the ancient weapons ready, and we help younger species grow strong enough to join the fight." General Korath laughed bitterly. "You expect us to believe that humans who only learned spaceflight 3 centuries ago are somehow the guardians of the galaxy?" Director Morrison's expression grew sad. "General, humanity has been in space for much longer than your intelligence reports suggest. The public development you observed was carefully managed to avoid suspicion. The real development began the day we found the first predecessor site. The screen changed to show images from Earth's past, but these were not images from any history book. They showed humans working alongside strange machines in underground facilities. They showed the construction of massive ships in hidden asteroid bases. They showed the careful, patient work of a species preparing for a war that might not come for millennia. It started in your year 1623, Morrison continued. A mining expedition in the Sahara Desert uncovered something that should not have existed. A chamber filled with technology beyond our understanding, and a message, left by beings who died millions of years before humans existed. What did the message say? Ambassador Yellen asked. It said, "To those who come after us, the watch must continue. We have prepared what we can. The rest is up to you." Captain Chen stepped forward again. "From that day forward, humanity has lived with the knowledge that we are not alone, that we are not safe, and that we have a responsibility to something larger than ourselves." The truth was overwhelming. Every assumption the Council had made about humanity was wrong. They were not a young, aggressive species threatening galactic peace. They were the inheritors of a burden that had shaped their entire civilization. The rapid technological advancement your people observed was not natural human development, Chen explained. It was us learning to use predecessor technology. Every breakthrough, every innovation was based on knowledge left behind by a dead race. But why humans? Zixthera asked. Why not the Veltar or the Krex or any of the older species? Morrison smiled sadly. Because you were too advanced. The predecessors learned that older civilizations become set in their ways. They resist change. They fear what they do not understand. Humanity was chosen because we were young enough to adapt, aggressive enough to fight, and curious enough to learn. And because we were desperate, Captain Chen added. When we found the first predecessor site, Earth was in the middle of a global war. We were destroying ourselves with primitive weapons and tribal hatred. The knowledge that something worse was coming gave us a reason to stop fighting each other and start fighting for survival. The implications were staggering. Human history, human culture, human development, all of it had been shaped by the need to prepare for a war against something from beyond the galaxy. Show them the arsenal, Morrison said quietly. Captain Chen hesitated. Director, are you sure? They need to understand what they are truly dealing with. The screens changed one final time. Now they showed the interior of the indomitable will. The ship was larger inside than outside, its corridors extending into dimensions that should not exist. Weapons lined the walls, devices that looked more like artwork than instruments of war, but which radiated power that made the Council's best technology look like stone tools. Each of our ships carries enough firepower to sterilize a solar system, Chen said matter-of-factly. Not because we want to destroy, but because the Devourers cannot be fought with conventional weapons. They exist partially outside normal space. They feed on life itself. Fighting them requires technology that can affect reality at the quantum level. Admiral Zixithera looked around her bridge at her officers and crew. They were all staring at the screens with expressions of shock and growing understanding. What do you want from us? She asked finally. Nothing, Captain Chen replied. Continue to grow. Continue to advance. Enjoy the peace we help maintain. And when the time comes, when the darkness finally returns, we hope you will be ready to stand with us. And if we refuse? If we attack you now? Captain Chen's expression grew cold. Then you will learn why no force in this galaxy has ever successfully challenged predecessor technology. But more importantly, you will doom every living thing in this galaxy to face the Devourers without the defenses your attack would force us to reveal. The choice was clear. Accept the truth about humanity's role as guardians or face the consequences of a war they could not win. For 3 hours, the Council fleet hung in space around the 13 human dreadnoughts. Admiral Zixithara had called for emergency discussions among the fleet commanders. The debate that followed nearly tore the alliance. Apart, this is impossible, insisted Admiral Corex of the Hegemony Third. Fleet, we cannot simply accept that everything we know about galactic history is wrong. General Korath paced back and forth in the holographic conference chamber. The humans could be lying. This could all be an elaborate deception to make us leave them alone. But Captain Yinth of the Selkari Exploratory Corps disagreed. The energy readings do not lie. Those ships are using technology beyond our understanding. The question is not whether they are telling the truth. The question is what we do about it. Admiral Zixithera listened to the arguments while watching the tactical display. The human ships had not moved since revealing themselves. They simply waited, patient as stones, while the Council debated their fate. We cannot retreat, Admiral Corex declared. If we return to the Council worlds with this story, they will think we have lost our minds. They will demand proof, and if we attack, Captain Yinth asked, then we find out if their weapons are as powerful as they claim, General Korath replied. His warrior instincts told him that retreat without testing the enemy was cowardice. It was Commodore Vectar of the Borderland Defense Force who made the decision that changed everything. He was young for a fleet commander, ambitious, and he had spent his entire career preparing for the moment when he could prove himself in real combat. I volunteer my squadron for a probe attack, he announced. 20 ships. We test their defenses and see what they are truly capable of. Admiral Zixithera tried to stop him. Commodore, we do not know what weapons they possess. The risk The risk of letting them intimidate us is greater, Vectar interrupted. If we retreat now, we look weak. Other species will think the Council can be threatened by anyone with impressive technology. The vote was close, but fear won over wisdom. 16 commanders voted to authorize a limited attack. Only 12 voted against it, Commodore. Vectar returned to his flagship with orders to conduct a reconnaissance in force. 20 ships from 4 different species would approach the nearest human dreadnought and test its responses. If the humans proved to be bluffing, the rest of the fleet would attack. If not, they would have their proof of human capabilities. Captain Sarah Chen watched the approaching squadron on her screens. She had hoped it would not come to this, but she had prepared for it. 20 ships closing on our position, reported Lieutenant Commander Torres from the tactical station. Mixed fleet composition. They are charging weapons. Do they truly think 20 ships can threaten us? Asked Commander Okafor, Chen's second-in-command. They think we are bluffing, Chen replied. They have never seen predecessor technology in action. To them, we are just another species with impressive ships. The human bridge was calm. No alarm sounded. No one rushed to battle stations. The crew simply continued their normal duties while 20 alien warships approached with hostile intent. Range to targets? Chen asked. 15,000 kilometers and closing, Torres reported. Are they within the minimum safe distance for a demonstration? Yes, Captain. The rest of their fleet is far enough away to avoid secondary effects. Chen nodded. Very well. Charge the main cannon. Deep within the indomitable will, something that had slept since the ship's construction began to wake up. The stellar core that powered the vessel shifted its output, channeling energy into systems that existed in multiple dimensions at once. On his flagship, Commodore Vectar watched his target with growing confidence. The human ship had not moved. It had not raised shields or deployed weapons. It just hung there like a dark monument waiting. Sir, his weapons officer reported, we are detecting an energy buildup from the human vessel. Defensive measures? Vectar asked. No, sir. The energy pattern is unusual. I cannot identify the source. Vectar smiled. Probably some kind of intimidation display. Proceed with the attack plan. The 20 council ships spread into attack formation. Their combined firepower could destroy a small moon. Against a single vessel, even one as large as the human dreadnought, victory seemed certain. All ships, lock weapons on target, Vectar commanded. Fire on my mark, but Captain Chen spoke first. Commodore Vectar, her voice came through the communication system of every ship in his squadron. You are about to make a terrible mistake. Stand down your weapons and withdraw. This is your only warning, Vectar laughed. Human, you are outnumbered 20-1. Surrender now and we will make your destruction quick. I see, Chen replied sadly. You have chosen to learn the hard way. On the bridge of the indomitable will, Captain Chen looked around at her crew. They were all humans, but they carried the weight of knowledge that no other species possessed. They knew what was coming from the dark between galaxies. They knew that every life in the galaxy depended on the ancient defenses they maintained. Fire, she said quietly. The main cannon of the indomitable will fired once. What emerged from the weapon was not a beam of energy or a projectile or anything that conventional military thinking could understand. It was a focused distortion of space-time itself, a manipulation of the fundamental forces that held reality together. The beam touched Commodore Vectar's flagship. The ship did not explode. It did not burn or break apart or scatter into debris. It simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized, but erased from reality as if it had never been built. The 19 remaining ships in the squadron watched in horror as their flagship and 300 crew members vanished without a trace. Their sensors showed nothing. No explosion, no energy release, no wreckage, just empty space where a powerful warship had been moments before. What just happened? Someone whispered over the communication channels. Captain Chen's voice answered them. That was a gravitational fold weapon. It creates a localized space-time distortion that removes matter from normal reality. Your commander's ship has not been destroyed. It has been edited out of existence. The surviving squadron members fled in panic, their formation collapsing as each ship raced to escape whatever had just demonstrated the power to erase them from the universe. On the Council Fleet's command ships, Admiral Zixathera and the other commanders watched the tactical displays in stunned silence. One moment there had been 20 ships. Now there were 19, and their instruments could not even explain what had happened to the missing vessel. "Admiral," Lieutenant Voss reported in a shaking voice, "I am not detecting any debris from Commodore Vectar's ship. No energy signature from an explosion. No trace that it ever existed." Captain Chen's face appeared on their screens again. Her expression was sad but determined. "I am sorry that demonstration was necessary," she said, "but you needed to understand that predecessor technology operates on principles your science has not yet discovered. We did not destroy that ship. We simply removed it from this reality." General Korath found his voice first. "Where did it go?" "Nowhere," Chen replied. "Everywhere. The gravitational fold weapon creates a space-time loop that places matter outside the normal flow of causality. The ship and its crew exist in a state where they never were and always will be. The implications were terrifying. If the humans could erase ships from existence itself, what hope did any conventional military force have against them? Now do you understand?" Captain Chen asked. "We are not your enemies. We are the guardians of this galaxy, and the weapons we carry are not meant for conquest. They are meant for something far worse than any of you can imagine." The silence that followed the demonstration of the gravitational fold weapon lasted for hours. The Council fleet hung motionless in space, its commanders struggling to process what they had witnessed. An entire ship, erased from existence as if it had never been built. Admiral Zix Ithera was the first to break the silence. "Captain Chen," she said, her crystalline voice carrying across the communication channels, "if your people possess such power, why have you remained hidden? Why allow the Council to exist at all?" Captain Chen appeared on screen once more. Behind her, the bridge of the Indomitable Will hummed with activity as her crew monitored the ancient defense network that stretched across the galaxy. "Because the Council serves a purpose," Chen replied. "You maintain peace between the younger species. You help them grow and develop. You give them hope and purpose while we handle the darker responsibilities." "What responsibilities?" General Korath demanded. His warrior instincts were still reeling from seeing a warship simply vanish from reality. Director Morrison joined Captain Chen on screen. His aged face carried the weight of knowledge that had shaped human civilization for centuries. "Show them the real threat," Morrison said quietly. The screens changed to display something that challenged the very sanity of those who looked upon it. In the dark space between galaxies, vast shapes moved with purpose and intelligence. They were not ships in any conventional sense. They were living darkness, entities that existed partially outside normal space-time. "The Devourers," Chen explained. "They feed on consciousness itself. When they consumed the Andromeda Galaxy, they did not just destroy the worlds and species that lived there. They devoured their thoughts, their dreams, their very souls." Ambassador Yellen stared at the display in horror. "How many are there?" "We do not know," Morrison replied. The predecessor's final report suggested millions, possibly billions. They exist as a collective consciousness spread across multiple dimensions. Imagine a hive mind that treats entire galaxies as food sources. The display zoomed in on one of the entities. It was massive beyond comprehension, larger than star systems with appendages that reached across light years. Where it moved, space itself seemed to darken and die. "The predecessors fought them for eons," Chen continued. "They won battles, saved worlds, protected entire sectors. But in the end, they realized that physical existence was a limitation in this war. So they evolved beyond matter and energy, becoming beings of pure thought and will. And they left you to continue their work," Zixthera said. "They left us to prepare for the final battle," Morrison corrected. "The Devourers are not gone. They are gathering strength in the void between galaxies. In 1,000 years, maybe 2,000, they will return to finish what they started." Captain Chen gestured to the tactical display showing the 13 human dreadnoughts. "Every ship in our fleet carries weapons designed to fight enemies that exist outside normal reality. Every human learns from childhood that our purpose is not to rule or conquer, but to stand guard against something infinitely worse than any galactic empire. That is why we allowed your species to develop naturally," Morrison added. "The predecessors discovered that organic life has something artificial intelligence lacks. The ability to grow beyond programming, to evolve beyond original limitations. When the Devourers return, we will need every thinking mind in the galaxy to stand together." General Korath studied the images of the approaching threat. His warrior instincts, honed by millions of years of evolution, screamed warnings about these creatures. How do we fight something like that? He asked. With unity, Chen replied. With technology that transcends the physical. With the combined will of every species in the galaxy focused on a single purpose: survival. The display changed again, showing the galaxy as it might be in the far future. The council species had grown and advanced, their technology guided by careful hints from humanity. The defense network had been expanded and improved, and when the darkness came again, they would be ready. This is our true mission, Morrison explained. Not to rule over younger species, but to help them become strong enough to join the fight. The predecessors learned that diversity is strength. Different species think in different ways, see solutions that others miss. Admiral Zixthara felt the weight of centuries pressing down on her. Everything she had believed about galactic politics and military power seemed trivial compared to this cosmic struggle. What happens to the council? She asked. It continues, Chen replied immediately, more important than ever. But now you know why we sometimes intervene in galactic affairs, why certain technologies are restricted, why some regions of space are declared off limits. The forbidden zones, Ambassador Yellen breathed. They are not empty space. They are places where predecessor technology is too dangerous for developing civilizations to encounter, Morrison confirmed. Until you are ready. Until you understand the responsibility that comes with such power. Captain Chen stood up from her command chair. Around her, the bridge of the indomitable will seemed to pulse with energy from dimensions beyond normal space. Admiral Zixthara, you came here to force humanity to surrender our weapons and limit our technology. I hope you now understand why that is impossible. These weapons do not belong to us. We are their custodians, their guardians, until the day comes when they must be used again. And our ultimatum? Zixthara asked. Withdrawn, I hope, Chen replied. Unless you prefer to explain to the Council why you attacked the galaxy's only defense against the return of the Devourers. General Korath stepped forward. Captain, you say you want unity when the darkness returns. What if some of us want to help now? What if we want to join the Watch? Chen exchanged a glance with Morrison. They had hoped for this moment but had not dared to expect it. The invitation has always been open, Morrison said, but understand what you are choosing. To join the Watch means to carry the burden of terrible knowledge. It means spending your life preparing for a war that may not come for centuries. It means sacrificing the simple joy of believing the galaxy is safe. Some of us are warriors, Korath replied. We were born to face terrible enemies. If there is a greater fight than this, we would be honored to stand with you. Captain Yinth of the Selkari spoke up. Our people are explorers. We have always wondered what lies beyond the edge of the galaxy. Now we know. And we want to help prepare for what comes from that darkness. One by one, other commanders volunteered. Not all of them. Some preferred to return to their worlds and continue believing in a simpler universe. But enough to make a difference. Admiral Zixthara was the last to speak. Captain Chen, my people have lived in fear of change for too long. Perhaps it is time we learned to fear something more worthy of our concern. Chen smiled. And for the first time since the confrontation began, it was a genuine expression of relief and hope. Welcome to the Watch, she said. Welcome to the real fight. As the human dreadnoughts began to fade back into the darkness between worlds, the Council fleet remained in Earth's solar system. But now they were not invaders or conquerors. They were students, learning about a war that had been fought in secret for millions of years. And in the dark spaces beyond the galaxy, ancient enemies stirred in their sleep, still unaware that the younger races were finally beginning to understand what was truly at stake. The Watch continued. The Guard held, and for the first time in human history, they would not stand alone when the darkness finally returned.